Okay, I'm going to tell you rather quickly how to make this sound effect because we've already made many sound effects in the same way using pink noise. And the vehicle that we use is multi-track software, and in this case it's Sony Acid Pro. Now if you know something about multi-track software, this is pretty easy. So we're only going to use 3 tracks, and we're going to put the same pink noise clip that I got off the internet on 3 tracks, and we're going to process each track a little differently to make the pink noise produce a different effect that will combine to create a full effect. Okay, so here's how the waveforms look. It's the same clip again on each track, but they're arranged a little differently. Up there in track 1, you see that I've shortened it because we're going to make a whistle out of that, and you see that brown line going downward in the middle of that track 1. That is the control line to sweep a resonance filter so we can make a whistle. Okay, and here's a snapshot of the resonance filter for track 1 for that whistle. You see at the frequency setting there, that's going to sweep downward. That's the part that's controlled by the downward envelope that you saw earlier. Now you'll have to learn how to make the envelope because this tutorial would be too long if we get into everything, but I'm just showing you the basics of this. Okay, and then second, make sure the resonance is turned up high. You see that in the middle, I've got it turned up high, and I've got full resonance on. Wet or dry, I've got it fully wet from resonance. Okay, some people might ask, okay, what is resonance? Resonance is a really, really narrow but high peak, and we're sweeping that across pink noise, which pink noise is noise across the entire spectrum, heavier on the low end. Okay, so as it sweeps across that narrow peak, it actually makes pitch, so it's a whistle, which we will modulate downward. And on that same track, track 1, which is going to be our whistle, our resonance, after the whistle is created by resonance, I'm just kind of narrowing the sounds a little bit with a filter. I'm cutting off some of that scratchiness over at the top end and cutting some of the, some of the lowest stuff out that we don't really need for making a whistle. So let's look at the overall view again, and now let's talk about track 2, which is going to be the low end part of the explosion when the bomb falls. Okay, so we have a rapidly rising envelope, not really fast, but pretty rapid, and then it begins to taper off in a sort of a rumbly fashion. You can see that blue line, which is the volume envelope. And now let's talk about how we EQ that track. It is going to be low end, so as you can see this filter, we're going to chop off a lot of the high end to just let some low stuff come through. But to make it sound overpowering and powerful, we're going to add some distortion to that low end too for track 2. So after we've chopped off some of the high end, then we're going to run it through this distortion filter, and you can play around with it and see what you like. Here's how I set it for this demo. Okay, now let's look at the overall situation again here, the overview of it. Again, now let's go down and talk about track 3 there at the bottom, which is going to be, I'm going to use that as a high-end impact. It's not going to last long. When a bomb explodes, you get this bright, slam of high frequencies that dies quickly. So let's talk about this track 3 for the high frequency impact. Okay, well, first for track 3 to make it just highs, or to make it really bright mids, really, we're going to filter it like this. You can try anything you want. If it's too bright, it just sounds scratchy, so that's why I've cut off some of the extreme high end, and I have some low end, but it's going to be bright this way, so check it out. And then to, of course, make it overwhelming and powerful and sound like it's overblowing everything, I've also added distortion to this track 3, this higher end stuff. And here's how I did it. You can play with it, see what you think. Okay, let's look at the overall layout again before we play the effect for you. Okay, so track 1 is just some pink noise that we've swept a resonance filter downwards across. Track 2 is, again, same pink noise, but you see the blue line, that's a volume envelope, the blue line, and we have a long downward taper on the volume envelope for the low frequencies. Track 3, you see the quick volume envelope at the front that just cracks for the initial slap of the bomb, and then it falls off quickly. Okay, here's our simple version of this sound effect. You can refine this a lot by adding more complexity into the explosion. There are a lot of refinements you can make, but I was trying to keep this tutorial short. And this, by the way, this simple sound effect is probably good for a radio commercial or a cheap animation anyway. Here it is again.